Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's story, I need you to grab a coffee, get comfortable, and maybe close the door if you're at work. This one's heavy and it's gonna take a minute. But I promise you it's worth hearing. Alright, let's get into it. Emma came in wearing long sleeves again. It was 92 degrees outside, middle of July in Phoenix, and this 4-year-old was covered neck to wrists in a purple turtleneck. That was the 4th day in a row. I'm Rachel, and I'd been running Little Stars daycare for 6 years. Long enough to know when something was very, very wrong. Her mother, Patricia Whitmore, was exactly the kind of parent who made my job hell. Corporate lawyer at Brennan and Associates downtown, designer handbag collection that probably cost more than my car, and that cold smile she'd flash while signing Emma in late every single morning. She paid the $1,850 monthly fee on time, though. So my boss, Mr. Henderson, told me to be accommodating. That's code for shut up and deal with it because we need the money. I should probably back up a bit. Little Stars sits in the strip mall off Camelback Road, wedged between a Starbucks and a struggling yoga studio. We had 23 kids that summer, ages 2 to 5, and I had 3 staff members, Julie, who'd been with me for 4 years and was basically my right hand, Marcus, our part-timer who was getting his early childhood education degree at ASU, and Denise, who handled the front desk, and honestly couldn't tell the difference between a behavioral issue and actual trauma if it bit her. Emma had been with us since she was 2. Quiet kid, always had been. The kind of child who played alone in the corner with the same 3 stuffed animals, a giraffe named Mr. Spots, a teddy bear she called Brown Bear, and this raggedy elephant with one ear missing. She'd set up elaborate tea parties and have full conversations with them in this whisper voice you had to strain to hear. Her dad, Judge Whitmore, actual Superior Court judge, did drop-offs maybe twice the whole time Emma was enrolled. Nice enough guy, seemed tired, always in a rush. Patricia did pickups 90% of the time. And she had this way of looking at Emma like the kid was an inconvenience she had to collect before heading back to something more important. The long sleeves started in late June. Arizona summer is brutal, and our play area out back has 0 shade until after 3 p.m. The other kids would come in shorts and tank tops, covered in sunscreen, ready to destroy themselves on the plastic slide. But Emma showed up in that purple turtleneck on a Monday, then a pink long-sleeve shirt on Tuesday, then a hoodie, a fucking hoodie on Wednesday. Julie noticed it before I did. Rachel, does that seem weird to you? She asked during nap time, nodding toward Emma curled up on her mat in the corner, still fully dressed while every other kid was down to basically underwear in the heat. Yeah, I said, watching Emma sleep with her arms tucked tight against her body. Yeah, it does. Thursday was when it escalated. We were doing outdoor play, and it had to be pushing 95 degrees. Emma sat in the shade near the fence watching the other kids, and I noticed sweat literally dripping down her face. She looked miserable. Emma, sweetie, do you want to take off your sweater? Julie asked, kneeling next to her. You look really hot. Emma's eyes went wide, like genuine panic. No, I can't. Mommy said I have to keep it on. Julie looked at me. I walked over and crouched down. Emma, it's okay. Your mommy won't mind if you're more comfortable. It's really hot out here. No. Her voice was this high-pitched squeak. I have to keep it on. I have to. Julie reached out gently, just trying to help roll up the sleeves a little, and Emma absolutely lost her mind. Screaming, sobbing, backing into the fence like a trapped animal, her whole body shaking. The other kids stopped playing. Marcus came running over. It took 10 minutes to calm her down, and even then, she wouldn't let anyone near her. That's when I saw them. Just a glimpse when her sleeve rode up during the meltdown. Bruises, dark purple ones circling her upper arm like fingerprints, perfectly spaced like someone had grabbed her hard and shaken her. My stomach dropped. Emma, sweetie, I said as gently as I could once she'd stopped crying. Who hurt you? Her face went blank. Completely empty, like someone flipped a switch. I fell down the stairs. I knew for a fact they lived in a 1-story ranch house on East Highland Avenue. I'd been there exactly once, 4 months ago, when Emma left her stuffed giraffe in Patricia's Mercedes, and I offered to drop it off on my way home. No stairs, not even a porch step. I didn't push it. Not yet. But I pulled Julie aside after we brought the kids inside. Did you see her arm? Yeah. Julie's face was pale. She'd been doing this almost as long as me. We both knew what we were looking at. What do? We watch, I said. We document everything. And if we see anything else, we call. The next day, Friday, Patricia was late for pickup. She strolled in at 6:47 p.m. We closed at 6, with a Nordstrom bag in one hand and her phone in the other, not even apologizing. Emma had been sitting in the reading corner alone for almost an hour, waiting. The second she saw her mother, her whole body tensed up. "Emma, get your things," Patricia said without looking up from her phone. "We're late for dinner." Emma scrambled to get her backpack. She moved like she was afraid to make noise. Patricia signed her out, handed me a check for the late fees, $60, which she knew I'd have to charge, and they left. I watched through the window as Patricia grabbed Emma's hand and basically dragged her to the car. Not rough enough to be obvious to anyone watching casually, but I saw Emma wince. That weekend, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I have 2 kids of my own, Mason's 9 and Lily's 12, and I kept looking at them and thinking about Emma sitting in that corner, waiting for a mother who couldn't be bothered to show up on time. About those bruises shaped like adult fingers. About the blank look on her face when she lied about falling downstairs that didn't exist. Monday morning, Emma came in with a split lip. Fresh, maybe a day old, scabbed over, but clearly recent. Marcus was doing morning intake, and he asked what happened. I ran into the coffee table. Emma whispered, not making eye contact. Marcus signed her in and came to find me immediately. "Rachel, you need to see this." I looked at Emma's face and felt my hands start shaking. Kids hurt themselves all the time. God knows I've seen every possible playground injury, but this didn't look like a typical fall. The split was clean, on the outside of her lower lip. The kind you get from getting hit or smacked, not from running into furniture. "Emma, honey, that looks like it hurts," I said, kneeling next to her. "Did you really run into a table?" That same blank expression. "Yes. Can you show me how you ran into it?" She just stared at me. Didn't move. Didn't answer. I started a log that morning. Date, time, injury observed, what Emma said, what we witnessed. Julie took photos on her phone, close-ups of the split lip, time-stamped. I made copies and put them in a locked file in my office. Mr. Henderson stopped by around 10 a.m. to drop off some licensing paperwork, and I showed him the photos. "Rachel, that's a busted lip," he said, handing the phone back. "Kids get those. Look at the bruises on her arms from last week. Look at the pattern," he sighed. "Look, I hear you. But you know we can't just accuse Patricia Whitmore of abuse without solid evidence. Her husband's a judge. One wrong move and we're dealing with a lawsuit we can't afford. So we wait until what? Until Emma shows up with broken bones? I'm not saying that. I'm saying be careful. Document everything, but don't make accusations you can't prove," I wanted to scream. But he wasn't wrong about the liability. So I kept documenting. Every day, every interaction. Emma came in Tuesday wearing pants and a long-sleeve shirt again, even though it was still in the 90s. Wednesday, she barely spoke to anyone, just sat with her stuffed animals whispering to them. Thursday, she asked Julie if it was bad to wish you had a different family. Julie told me that in tears during lunch break. "Rachel, what the fuck do we do? This kid is telling us something's wrong and we're just watching." "I know," I said, and I felt like the worst person in the world. Friday changed everything. Emma had a bathroom accident around 2 p.m., not uncommon for 4-year-olds, especially when they're stressed, and I took her to the bathroom to help her change into the spare clothes we kept on site. When I helped her pull off her shirt, I saw her back, belt marks. Thin, raised welts crisscrossing her shoulder blades and lower back, some fresh and red, others faded to purple and yellow. At least 6 distinct marks. My vision actually blurred for a second. I had to grab the sink to steady myself. "Emma, baby," I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though I was shaking. "Who hurt you? You can tell me the truth. I promise you're safe here." "Mommy says I'm clumsy," she said in this tiny robotic voice, staring at the bathroom tile. "Mommy says if I tell lies about her, I'll get hurt worse. She says nobody will believe me anyway because she's important and I'm just a kid." I wanted to vomit. Instead, I helped her into clean clothes, told her everything was going to be okay, and the second she was back in the playroom with Marcus watching her, I called CPS. The hotline operator took my information and said a caseworker would be assigned within 24 hours. I gave her everything: the bruises, the split lip, the belt marks, the things Emma had said. She told me I'd done the right thing making a mandatory report and that someone would follow up soon. David Chen showed up 2 hours later. Not 24 hours, 2 hours. Apparently, when you report visible belt marks on a 4-year-old with a pattern of injuries, they move fast. He was maybe 35, wore khakis and a polo shirt, carried a tablet and a bag that looked like it had seen some shit. Calm demeanor, spoke softly, the kind of person trained to handle traumatized kids. "Hi, Emma," he said, sitting down next to her in the playroom while she colored. "My name is David. I'm here to make sure you're okay. Is that all right?" Emma looked at me. I nodded. She turned back to David and whispered, "Okay." They talked for maybe 20 minutes. I stayed across the room but close enough to intervene if she got upset. David asked about her favorite things, her stuffed animals, what she liked to eat. Then gently he asked if anyone ever hurt her at home. I saw Emma's hands stop moving. Her crayon hovered over the paper. "Sometimes," she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "Can you tell me who?" "Mommy. How does Mommy hurt you?" Emma put down the crayon. "She gets mad when I'm bad. She says I make her angry. She hits me with the belt when I don't clean my toys fast enough or when I cry too much." David asked if he could see where it hurt. Emma looked at me again. I nodded. She lifted her shirt just enough for him to see her back. I watched his jaw tighten, but his voice stayed gentle. "Thank you for being brave and telling me, Emma, you're not in trouble. None of this is your fault." That's when Patricia showed up. 30 minutes early for pickup, which she'd never done before. I don't know if she had some sixth sense that something was wrong or if it was just terrible timing, but she walked through the front door at 4:32 p.m., and I watched her face cycle through confusion, shock, rage, and then this terrifying calm when she saw David sitting with Emma. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice sharp. Denise at the front desk tried to intercept her, but Patricia blew right past. David stood up. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm David Chen with Child Protective Services. I'm here conducting a welfare check on Emma." "Based on what?" She looked at me. If looks could kill, I'd have been dead on the floor. "Who called you?" "That's confidential, ma'am. But I need to speak with you about some concerns." "Rachel, could I speak with you privately?" Patricia's voice was ice. Her smile was even colder. David was still with Emma in the playroom. Marcus stood nearby, close enough to hear everything. Julie was watching from the office doorway. Patricia stepped so close I could smell her Chanel No. 5 and see the tiny veins in her eyes. "You have no idea what you've done," she hissed, her voice low enough that Emma couldn't hear. "Do you know who my husband is? Judge Whitmore, Maricopa County Superior Court. You just made a very stupid enemy. I will bury you. I will bury this shitty little daycare. You'll be lucky if you can get a job cleaning toilets when I'm done with you." My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I thought about Emma's back, about those belt marks, about the way she whispered to her stuffed animals like they were the only ones who understood. And I looked Patricia Whitmore dead in the eye and said, loud enough for David to hear, "David, you should hear this. Mrs. Whitmore is threatening me for making a mandatory abuse report." Patricia's face went from red to white in about 2 seconds. David stepped out of the playroom, his phone already in his hand, recording. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to step back," David said calmly. "Threatening a mandatory reporter is a felony in Arizona, and I just recorded your statement." "I didn't threaten anyone," she started, her voice rising. "Actually," Marcus cut in, holding up his phone, "I've been recording since you walked in." "You absolutely did." "Want me to play it back?" Patricia's hands were shaking. She looked around the room, at me, at David, at Marcus, at Julie, and I saw the exact moment she realized she'd fucked up. But instead of backing down, she did the worst possible thing. She grabbed Emma's hand hard and said, "We're leaving, now," Emma yelped. David immediately stepped between them. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm removing Emma from your custody right now under emergency protection. You can cooperate, or I'll have Phoenix PD here in 3 minutes." "You can't do that. I can, and I am. You just threatened a mandated reporter and physically hurt your daughter in front of multiple witnesses. I have photographic evidence of abuse, a recorded statement from the child, and now video of you threatening and grabbing her. You can walk away right now, or you can be arrested. Your choice." I watched Patricia's whole world collapse in her eyes. The designer armor cracked. The cold lawyer facade shattered. For just a second, I saw something that might have been shame or fear, or maybe just rage that she'd been caught. Then she turned and walked out without another word. Emma stood there frozen. David knelt down next to her. "Emma, you're going to stay somewhere safe tonight, okay? Somewhere nobody will hurt you." "Where?" she whispered. "With your grandma. Your dad's mom. Do you like her?" Emma nodded. She'd mentioned her grandma before, Grandma Carol, who baked cookies and let her watch cartoons. Good, she's on her way right now. The next few hours were a blur. Phoenix PD showed up to take statements. Emma's grandmother Carol arrived, this sweet woman in her 60s who took one look at Emma and started crying. David filed emergency custody transfer paperwork right there at our daycare. Mr. Henderson showed up, panicking about liability until I showed him the recordings and photos, and then he went pale and shut up. Patricia tried calling me 11 times that night. I didn't answer. My husband Ryan asked me what was going on, and I broke down crying in our kitchen while telling him everything. He held me and said I'd done the right thing, but I couldn't stop shaking. The investigation moved fast. Turned out Patricia had been hiding medical records. 2 ER visits in the last 6 months for Emma's accidents. One for a sprained wrist, one for bruised ribs. Different hospitals, different doctors. Both times Patricia gave explanations that didn't quite match the injuries. The ER doctor from the rib injury had actually flagged it as suspicious, but somehow it never got followed up on. Now it was all coming out. Judge Whitmore filed for divorce within a week. I heard through David, who stayed in touch, that the judge had no idea what was happening. He worked 60-hour weeks, left early, came home late, and Patricia had convinced him Emma was just accident-prone. When he saw the photos and the medical records, he was apparently devastated. He got emergency full custody within days. Patricia was arrested 4 days after the confrontation. Child abuse, assault on a minor, threatening a witness, and evidence tampering for hiding the medical records. Her mugshot showed up on local news. My phone blew up with messages from other parents asking what happened. I didn't say anything publicly, but word spread anyway. The next month was weird. Some parents pulled their kids out because they didn't want to be associated with drama. Others specifically enrolled their kids because they'd heard I'd protected a child. Mr. Henderson gave me a raise and told me to handle things however I saw fit going forward. Julie and Marcus both told me they were proud to work with me, which made me cry again. 3 months later, on a Tuesday afternoon in October, Emma came back to visit our daycare with her grandmother Carol. I was in the playroom helping a toddler named Sophie build a block tower when I heard Julie's voice from the front. "Rachel, there's someone here to see you." I walked out and there was Emma holding her grandmother's hand. She was wearing a tank top and shorts. Her hair was in pigtails with little butterfly clips, and she was smiling. Actually smiling. I hadn't seen her smile like that in the entire year she'd been enrolled with us. "Hi, Miss Rachel," she said shyly. I knelt down. "Hi, Emma, you look so happy." I am happy. Grandma lets me wear whatever I want, and we make cookies, and Daddy reads me stories every night before bed. I had to bite my lip to keep from crying right there. "That sounds perfect." She hugged me then, this tight 4-year-old hug that knocked the breath out of me. I held her and felt all the fear and anger and helplessness from those weeks just pour out. Carol pulled me aside while Emma went to say hi to Julie and Marcus. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Thank you for seeing her. For really seeing her. Patricia had everyone fooled for so long. She's this successful lawyer, so polished, so put together. Nobody suspected. But you paid attention. You saved my granddaughter's life. How is she doing?" I asked. "Therapy twice a week. Some nightmares still. But she's getting better. She plays now." She laughs. "She's starting to be a kid again." Carol's eyes filled with tears. Her father is devastated that he didn't see it. He's completely changed his work schedule to be home with her. He's a good man who was just absent, but he's trying now. And Patricia? Trial's in 2 months. Her lawyer tried to claim postpartum depression and work stress, but the evidence is overwhelming. She's looking at 18 months minimum, possibly more. Emma ended up getting exactly that. 18 months in Perryville, the women's prison west of Phoenix, plus loss of all parental rights. The judge on the case, not her husband, obviously, but one of his colleagues, called the belt marks some of the clearest evidence of premeditated child abuse he'd seen. Patricia never showed remorse, never apologized. Her lawyer kept trying to paint her as a stressed professional who snapped, but the hidden medical records killed that defense. I got a commendation from the Arizona Department of Child Safety 6 months later. They invited me to some ceremony at the state capitol building where they gave out awards to mandatory reporters who'd made significant impacts. I went because Carol and Emma would be there. Emma brought me a drawing she'd made. It was her and Mr. Spots and Brown Bear and the elephant. all having a tea party under a rainbow. For keeping me safe, she'd written at the top in shaky 4-year-old handwriting. That drawing is framed in my office now. I look at it on hard days, when I'm dealing with difficult parents or budget issues or wondering if I'm making a difference at all. Because Emma's out there somewhere growing up safe with people who love her. She's probably 7 now in 2nd grade, maybe playing soccer or learning piano or doing whatever 7-year-olds do when they're allowed to just be kids. I still think about those weeks sometimes. About the long sleeves in July, the blank expression when she lied, the belt marks on her back. About how close we came to missing it, to writing it off as a clumsy kid with an uptight mom. About how easily Patricia could have gotten away with it if Emma hadn't had that accident that day, if I hadn't seen her back. If I'd listened to Mr. Henderson's concerns about liability over my gut instinct, people ask me sometimes if I was scared. If I worried about the lawsuit Patricia threatened, about going up against a judge's wife, about the fallout. And yeah, I was terrified. I barely slept for weeks. But I kept thinking about Emma's face when she whispered, "Mommy says nobody will believe me anyway because she's important. And I'm just a kid." That's the thing, nobody tells you about mandatory reporting. It's not heroic. It's terrifying. You're putting your job, your reputation, possibly your safety on the line. You're making a call that could destroy a family or save a child, and you don't always know which it'll be until it's done. You second guess everything. You wonder if you're overreacting, if you're seeing things that aren't there, if you're about to ruin innocent people's lives. But then you see those belt marks. You hear that robotic voice reciting lies a parent taught them. You watch a 4-year-old flinch when someone reaches for her, and you realize there's no choice at all. There's only what's right. Julie still works with me. Marcus graduated from ASU and now runs his own preschool in Tempe. We still talk about Emma sometimes, about how that case changed the way we look at every kid who comes through our doors. We watch for the signs now. Not just the obvious bruises, but the quiet things. The kid who never wants to go home. The one who hoards snacks like they don't get fed enough. The one who apologizes constantly for things that aren't their fault. Mr. Henderson retired last year. I bought the daycare from him. We renamed it Safe Harbor Learning Center. I hired 2 more full-time staff members and implemented mandatory trauma-informed care training. We have a policy now that any suspected abuse gets reported immediately. No waiting, no second guessing. We've made 4 more CPS reports in the 3 years since Emma. 2 were investigated and closed as unfounded. The families were just going through rough patches, and the kids were fine. 2 resulted in children being removed from dangerous situations. I don't know if that makes me good at my job, or if it means I'm hypervigilant to the point of paranoia. I don't really care, because somewhere out there are 6 kids who got a chance at something better. 6 kids who had someone paying attention. Emma sent me a letter last year. Carol helped her write it. She's doing great. Honor roll, joined the school choir, has a best friend named Madison who's teaching her to skateboard. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She included another drawing, this one of a dog and a cat and a rabbit, all wearing tiny doctor coats. "Thank you for being brave when I couldn't be," it said at the bottom. I'm not brave. I'm just a daycare director who paid attention. But if that's enough to change one kid's life, then maybe that's all any of us can do. Pay attention. Believe children. Report what we see even when it's terrifying. Especially when it's terrifying. Because Patricia Whitmore was a successful corporate lawyer with designer bags and a judge for a husband. She looked perfect on paper. And she was torturing her daughter with a belt, while telling her nobody would believe her. How many other Patricias are out there, hiding behind respectability? How many other Emmas are whispering to stuffed animals because they're the only ones who listen? I think about that a lot. And then I look at the drawing on my wall, at Emma's rainbow and her tea party, and her shaky handwriting, and I remember why I do this job. Not for the commendations or the thank yous or even the satisfaction of seeing justice served. I do it because every kid deserves someone who sees them. Really sees them, even when it's 92 degrees and they're wearing long sleeves, especially then, if you made it this far. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was heavy and I know it wasn't easy to hear. But these stories matter. They need to be told. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more true stories like mine, please consider subscribing to Reddit Daily Dose. Your support helps more stories reach people who need them, and it reminds people like me that speaking up was worth it. Thanks again for being here. Take care of yourselves.